I've found that many people, myself included, get a little lax with safety protocols in their home country. So consider this a reminder for how to safely use rideshares wherever you are. Rideshare apps like Uber and Didi are a safe and affordable way to get around in Mexico. Here in Guadalajara, I regularly use Uber to move about the city. Here are the things I always do to stay safe. Well, the first thing that I do when I am waiting for the Uber to pull up is I check the make and model of the Uber. It says it right there in the app. And I've got that in mind as well as the license plate. So I'm on the lookout for the car. And then when the driver pulls up, I head to the back of the vehicle and make sure the make and model, the color of the vehicle, the license plate all match up what I'm seeing in the app. Then, before I get into the car, I will say the name of the driver, usually they've rolled the window down, and wait to hear my name back from them. It's also smart to check that the driver matches their photo in the app. You can listen for the driver to say that they're starting the trip, but if you don't speak a lot of Spanish, I recommend keeping the Uber app open to check that the ride has started. Whenever I take an Uber by myself, I always share the ride with my husband Taylor. In the Uber app, you can set up a trusted contact, or you can simply copy the ride link and send it in a message. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. My name is Alex, and I moved to Mexico from the US in 2017. I lived in a city called Querétaro for 5 years, and for the last couple of years, I've called Guadalajara home. If you're thinking about moving to Mexico in 2025, then I highly suggest downloading the absolutely free Move to Mexico Quick Start Guide. That is a guide that I have put together answering some frequently asked questions about moving to Mexico. Plus, it's got a super handy renting in Spanish cheat sheet with the exact phrases that you can WhatsApp to a potential landlord about a property. That guide is completely free. I will put a link to it in the description below. Any advice for easing family concerns that Mexico is a dangerous place? Any websites to pull crime rates from so you could compare cities to US cities? I know that a lot of people really like the website Numbeo. I'll put a link to it in the description below for comparing crime rates in different cities around the world. It is important to note that those statistics are self-reported, but it could be a good starting place somewhere that you could point family members to if you're interested in comparing your new city in Mexico to cities in the US. Something that I've found that's really helpful in easing loved ones' worries is setting up or making a plan for how you're going to stay in touch. Maybe that's a WhatsApp message every morning or a phone call every Sunday. When you're sharing your plans to stay in touch, you can also go ahead and share what precautions you plan on taking in your life in Mexico. For example, those Uber tips that I shared in the beginning of the video, telling my mom what I do every time I get into an Uber here in Mexico has really helped her to worry less. It really gives her that peace of mind, that sense of security that I'm safe. Invite them to visit you. A lot of fear stems from just not knowing. That uncertainty stirs up a lot of emotions. It's easier to be freaked out than to seek the truth. When someone comes to Mexico and they're able to experience the life here firsthand, then they're going to be able to shape their own opinions about Mexico and not rely on whatever negative things they've been hearing from whatever news source they've been hearing them from. The last thing that I want to say about this is that I hope you remember that it's not your responsibility to convince anyone that your move to Mexico is a right decision. You know what the right decision is for you, and there are going to be some people that you just can't convince. They are going to hold tight to these long-held beliefs whether those beliefs are right or wrong, whether they are justified in any way. Sometimes you just gotta let it go for your own self, for your own peace, and remember that you are doing what's right for you. I follow all the advice about food and water in Mexico, but I get quite sick 90% of the time. What advice do you have? Maybe I'm missing something. I have a whole video here on my channel with what not to do in Mexico. It's packed with tips for staying safe, staying healthy. I will link that in the description below. But something that this person might not be thinking of, might not be considering, is that they could possibly have a parasite. Last year, I went to the doctor, and the doctor suggested that I also do a stool test. And they said that it's really common, especially among foreigners in Mexico, foreigners living in Mexico, to have a parasite and not even know it. And when the results came back, it turned out that I did have a parasite. Having a parasite weakens your gut health. It lowers the effectiveness of your immune system. Foods that might not ordinarily make you sick, things that might not ordinarily get to you, can really wreak havoc on your gut when you have a parasite. You're just not as strong to fight things off. The treatment for a parasite, I took a medication called Dachshund, and that involved taking a pill once a day, every day for 3 days. And then it was like a 2-week break, I believe. And then I did another round, same thing, 1 pill every day for 3 days. I learned recently that you can take Pepto-Bismol proactively, and this will coat the lining of your stomach, coat the lining of your intestines, and it will reduce bacteria's ability to stick around and cause an infection. And this wouldn't be a good fit for somebody who is living in Mexico full time. But if you are getting ready to travel to Mexico and you really don't want to get sick, I mean, who does? Traveler's diarrhea is the worst. The CDC recommends that you start taking Pepto-Bismol the day that you get to Mexico. You can take it 4 times a day. You would take it with each of your meals and then once at bedtime. The dosage, the recommended dosage is 2 chewable tablets or 2 ounces of fluid, and you can take it for up to 3 weeks. How do you pay bills associated with your apartment? How often do the electricity and water bills come? Do you go to the utility office directly, or can you pay them at an OXXO? At our apartment, we pay all of our utility bills online. Actually, Taylor is the one who pays all of the bills, and I interviewed him a little bit to answer this question for you. We have a Mexican bank account with Santander, and we use that account to pay our utility bills. But before we had a Mexican bank account, we were able to pay most of the bills with our Charles Schwab debit card. The one bill that we did have trouble paying with the Charles Schwab credit card was the water bill, and this was back when we lived in Querétaro. So what we would do instead is every time a water bill came to our house, we would go to the OXXO, which is a Mexican convenience store. They're all around. You seriously can't walk more than a few blocks without bumping into one in Mexico. We'd go to an OXXO with the bill in hand, and the person working would scan a barcode on the bill, and we would just pay there at the counter in cash. How much do our utilities cost in Mexico? Now, electricity is subsidized by the Mexican government, so it is very, very affordable up to a certain point. Once you go beyond a certain usage, the price, your bill really, really increases. So in months, in the really hot months here in Guadalajara, when we're using our air conditioner a lot, that electricity bill, boop, goes up. On average, we pay 350 pesos, so approximately 17 US dollars, every 2 months for our electricity. Just to give you an idea of what it costs in a more expensive month, May and June, we paid 1,280 pesos. We were using our air conditioner quite a bit, and that is approximately $62 US. The electricity bill arrives pretty much like clockwork, but that hasn't been the case with our water or our gas bill. Actually, when I was asking Taylor approximate costs of our utilities for this video, he was like, we haven't gotten a gas or a water bill in a minute. I wonder what's up with that. Maybe they overcharged us in a past month. I'm not sure if anybody has any idea why it's been a couple months since we've gotten a water or gas bill. Let us know. Fortunately, we have been able to log in online, log into the website that is listed on past bills, and we're able to see that we don't owe money. So I'm not worried that the bill has just gotten lost in the Mexican post or anything like that. When the bill arrives monthly, on average, we pay around 765 pesos, which is about $37. That's for the gas. And the water, which is usually also billed monthly, we pay around 200 pesos, which is about $10 US. Before we get into the internet, another sort of utility that I thought was worth mentioning is our trash collection. Now, when we lived in Querétaro, we lived in the Centro Histórico, and trash collection there was free. It was 6 nights a week. You just put it outside under a light post, and the truck came by to collect it. Here in Guadalajara, it is a paid service. We have some trash cans outside of our apartment building, and it costs 70 pesos per month. That's for every apartment in the building is paying that. 70 pesos per month for the trash collection. And as far as how often it's collected, there isn't really a schedule. In a lot of Mexican cities, Guadalajara being one of them, you just listen for the cowbell. When you hear the cowbell in your neighborhood, it is time to take the trash out. They are coming by to collect it. For internet, we have a fiber optic connection through a company called Total Play, and we pay around 899 pesos per month. Right now, that's the only router that we have in our apartment. Back when we first moved to Guadalajara, we used to pay for a backup router, a backup internet service with a company called Megacable, and that cost around 570 pesos per month. We had it up on the second floor of our apartment, and if you've watched my videos from when we first moved to Mexico, recounting those first few years in Mexico, one of my biggest issues, one of my biggest causes of strife was the internet. But overall, I would say that the internet Total Play is pretty reliable. Actually, we had a mini outage, not for more than just our house, but it was an outage here at our apartment just last weekend, and they were able to send a technician to see us the very next day. So our internet went out on Friday night, and then the technician was here to fix things the next day, Saturday morning. The subscriber asks, is it better to move with a couple of suitcases or ship your US furniture to Mexico? If you decide to take your furniture, what are some recommended moving companies? What are approximate moving costs? When Taylor and I moved to Mexico back in 2017, we moved to Querétaro with 2 backpacks and a couple of suitcases. And we ended up moving into an unfurnished apartment, which meant that we had to furnish it. We had to buy furniture in Querétaro, and honestly, it worked out. It wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be. We really had like next to no money when we moved to Mexico, and we were able to furnish a very comfortable home for ourselves. I was 25 when we moved to Mexico. I didn't even have any furniture that we could have shipped to Mexico. So I completely understand that if you are getting ready to retire and looking at moving to Mexico, you are in a completely different situation. A lot of people in our Move to Mexico membership have talked about the challenges of having to downsize an entire home. If you're considering moving your belongings to Mexico, I actually did a whole video just on that one topic for my Summer in 7 series. It's a quick video. It gets right down to the point and has all the information that you need. I actually talked to a relocation transit specialist here in Mexico who shared her experience working with clients and gives a bunch of great information. So I will go ahead and put that video up on the screen now so you can watch it next. If you have other Mexico-related questions, please feel free to drop those into the comments below. I'm Alex from backpackingbrunette.com. Thanks for watching.